Of course, on a Football Reaction Monday, we've got a ton to talk about on today's show. Going to talk about the New England Patriots to lead off, why they are absolutely, officially Super Bowl contenders in the AFC. Talk about that. Drake May, Travion Henderson, Mike Vrabel doing his thing. Very impressed by Vrabel. Talk about him later. Also, second segment. You know, I've been hard on Mike Tomlin all season long, and I will continue to be. However, last night falls squarely on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to go off on Aaron after the Steelers lost to the Los Angeles Chargers. Also getting into a number of things regarding Caleb Williams, who really stepped up in the fourth quarter, played big-time football, and has continued to do so, showed his maturity and growth as a quarterback under Ben Johnson. Discussed that. Matthew Stafford, to me, is the MVP of the league. What concerns me the most about the Buffalo Bills' blowout loss to the Dolphins. Recap of the rest of Week 10 around the National Football League, and predictions for a huge Week 10 matchup, Monday Night Football, NFC showdown between the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. So as you know, Carving Up Live is absolutely loaded on a Monday. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Instagram, Twitch, and on Facebook. I am Bryson Carver. It is fantastic to be with you on this Monday. So much great football over the course of this weekend. We really don't have time to talk about the college football. Omar Cooper Jr., my gosh, what a catch to beat Penn State. What a great throw by Fernando Mendoza to give him an opportunity to make the play. Again, not enough time for college football today, but a great weekend in that regard. So much to get into the NFL. I mean, it was a Week 10 that featured game-winning drives, yet another from my man Caleb Williams. I cannot wait to get into that segment. Also, something I didn't bring up in the open, Brian Daboll a few hours ago was fired by the Giants. I'll talk about that in kind of the second half of the of the segment about the Chicago Bears. But there's all kinds of stuff to get into. So chime in the comment section, like, share, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Here on YouTube, follow all my social media platforms. You can see the usernames all below. So we got lots to talk about. Let's get right to it. But first, well, life must be pretty good if you are a New England Patriots fan, mustn't it? I mean, you go through 20 years of, the greatest dynasty in league history with the greatest quarterback in league history. And, you go to 9 Super Bowls, win 6 of them, and you just have a great run. And you go some lean years, but such is the life of being an NFL fan, unless you're a Steelers fan and you're perpetually stuck in mediocrity. But if you're a Patriots fan, you go through the Cam Newton and Mac Jones years and the Gerard Mayo era. It doesn't really work. And you draft Drake May. He's this young, promising, rookie. What does he have for the future? And then, by virtue of pure stupidity by the Tennessee Titans, you end up hiring Mike Vrabel, who has changed everything in New England. And I'm here to tell y'all today, the New England Patriots can win the Super Bowl. Just see it in your head. And I'll explain some of the reasons why I'm talking about this. But just, first of all, someone once called it the confetti test. Close your eyes. Can you see Drake May, Mike Vrabel, Travion Henderson, maybe a Mac Collins or a Stephon Diggs, some of the one of the defensive stars like a Christian Gonzalez up there on the podium, Roger Goodell. This would be very painful. Roger Goodell having to hand the Lombardi Trophy once again to Bob Kraft, who will raise it to the Patriots faithful. Can you see that in your head? Because I can. Not saying I'm predicting it. I'm still maintaining that we're going to get the Super Bowl rematch. Chiefs-Eagles, I'm maintaining that. But as we sit here today, that's the best team in the AFC. Because they dominate on both sides of the ball. We can show you a graphic what they're doing. They're dominant on both sides of the ball. One of the 10 best teams of football. Offensively, 8th in points, 9th in pass yards per game, tied for 3rd in pass touchdowns, and they're 7th in 3rd down conversion. Defense, it's all about stopping the run. But that says, 79.2 pass yards per game. That should say rush yards per game. Only give up 19 points per game. 79.2 rush yards per game. 3 rushing touchdowns given up all year. That leads the NFL. And they're 3rd in terms of yards per carry allowed. This is an elite offense. This is an elite defense. And what the Patriots have going for them is that usually, I've talked about this. Shout out to Colin Cowherd. He's talked about this for years. I've kind of slowly come on. Is this idea that as the NFL shifts to more of a quarterback and offense-centric league with the way the rules have changed, with how talented these quarterbacks are, the greatest talents we've ever seen in the history of the league, is that you kind of you need to have an offensive coach to get the absolute most out of it. Right? We're seeing that with the Chicago Bears. We're seeing it with the Indianapolis Colts, with the Rams, Niners, up and down the list. Is that by and large, the offensive coaches are the ones that are more successful long-term. Mike Vrabel is a special exception in the sense that oftentimes defensive coaches, don't they all kind of have the same feel like, we're going to win with the running game? Now, again, not that these things don't matter, because they do, but we're going to win with the run game, work out a play action, and hit a few big threes, but it's going to be our defense. We're going to win low-scoring games. Mike Vrabel's a little bit different. Mike Vrabel, unlike almost all defensive coaches and some offensive coaches, is innovative, is ahead of the curve. There was a stretch in that game. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is a genius. Not that I didn't love Mike Vrabel already. I've ripped the Titans 2 years ago when they fired him. Could not believe it. They said he had an issue with the GM, then fired the GM. Vrabel's not the problem, as the Patriots are showing you today. Vrabel is the second coach in NFL history to start 8-2 with a team that had lost 13 or more games in the regular season. For those that are wondering, Andy Reid was the first to do it back in 2013 in Kansas City. But the thing with Vrabel, Patriots are burning all this clock. Last possession of the first half. Patriots fans know what I'm talking about. Bucs fans too. Down 10-7. Here we go. We're moving the ball. We get the ball to the 1-yard line. Tampa Bay uses their final timeout. Okay, Patriots are on the 1. Minute 44 to go. Bucs are out of timeouts. Mike Vrabel says, Drake May, I want you to take the snap and basically just fall. It's not a sneak. It's not a kneel down. I just want you to fall at the line of scrimmage so we can burn 40 seconds off the clock. I'm like, this guy's a freaking genius. I love this. Because he knows what Baker Mayfield and the Bucs offense presents on the other side. Even with the injuries at receiver, Baker Mayfield, Mika Ibuka, they're always dangerous. We know that. Certainly at home, off of a bye, with a lead or with the game tied. He says, fall down. Now, the Patriots end up getting stuffed the next 2 plays. 4th down and goal, 2 seconds left. He's like, no, this is our second opportunity this season after the Buffalo Bills Sunday night game, when they kind of introduced themselves to the world as a true, playoff threat and potential Super Bowl threat. Mike Vrabel says, you know what? 4th down and goal, the 1, 2 seconds left. Go for the jugular. And Drake May delivers a perfect ball to Stephon Diggs, who makes an outstanding acrobatic catch, back left corner of the end zone. Patriots run the locker room with the momentum. They don't look back from there. Innovative, being innovative with the clock. Y'all know I'm a stickler for clock management, and that was brilliant clock management. Either we're getting points or we're coming out with nothing, but Tampa's not touching the ball until the second half. That is excellent on the part of Vrabel. Here's something else the Patriots have going for them, is that they have a very similar, thing with their coaching staff that the Kansas City Chiefs have, is that they have a coordinator on their staff that was an awful head coach, but is a great coordinator, but because he was a bad head coach, he's not going anywhere. Hey, you can keep him long-term. The Chiefs have it with Spags, who bombed as a head coach of the Rams. He's one of the best DCs in the league. He's not going anywhere. Josh McDaniels, the Patriots, same thing. For years, I was in the contention, like, yeah, of course he's a great OC. He's got Tom freaking Brady and Gronk and Edelman. It's hard to screw that up. But then he makes Mac Jones a Pro Bowler. And now he's helped Drake May evolve into being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, maybe even an MVP in 2025. He's gotten the most out of the talent that he's got in New England. And I'm not trying to shortchange the Patriots roster, because offensively, shout out to my guy Tim Barnard of the Boston Sports Summit, does a great job. Check out his show every week here on The Grid. And my good friend Dylan, worked with him at Millennium Falcon, good friend of mine. Both are big Patriots fans. And both of which, especially Dylan, have been texting me give the ball to TreVeyon Henderson. He was a star at Ohio State, star in the preseason. Well, basically because of injuries to Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, Vrabel doesn't have a choice. He has to give the ball to this kid, to TreVeyon Henderson, and he breaks not 1 but 2 long touchdowns. Second one, which was hilarious. He's looking toward the sideline. Should I go down or you want me to score? Okay, I'm going to go score. The Patriots O-line has gotten better. Drake May holds the ball a little too long. He's taken the second most sacks in the NFL. That's something he's got to improve on. But I thought by and large, Romo was on it early, right? First possession of the game, it's raining a little bit in Tampa, and he's like, uh-oh, I haven't seen Drake May play in the rain yet. How is this going to work? And again, the rain kind of subsided after a while, but settled in, made the throws, had a bad red zone pick that gave Tampa Bay an opportunity to win. But I thought Drake May was brilliant. This is a great team on both sides of the ball. They have a defensive coach who's kind of like his own guy. Vrabel's a defensive guy. He's a hard, hard ass. He'll get on guys, I'm sure, in meetings and what have you. But unlike Belichick, Mike Vrabel doesn't have the hubris to think, I'm the system. We can throw just anybody. We can draft Cole Strange in the first round. Huh? Belichick destroyed this operation for the last 5 years, and Vrabel in 1 season, with a new coaching staff, spending money in free agency, having a solid draft, getting some good skill position players on the outside. Finally, New England hasn't had that in years. A running game. They can stop the run. I'm telling you right now, this team can win the Super Bowl in large part because they're scheduled the rest of the way. The only tough games the Patriots really have from here is Buffalo and Baltimore. The rest of which, they should win all of them. I would be, honest to God, the Patriots are 8-2. They've won 7 games in a row. I would be disappointed if they're not 13-4. They should lose no more than 2 games the rest of the year unless, knock on wood, as long as Drake May is healthy. Which will probably, because the Broncos are getting the 1 seed. The Broncos are not getting the 1 seed. I think Kansas City's running them down for the division. Even if they don't, Broncos are getting the 1 seed with the way Bo Nix is playing. Indianapolis could, in theory, AFC South is weak. It feels like it's going to be a Patriots-Colts battle for the 1 seed. What is this, 2005? Not 2025? But that team can win it all, without question. So kudos to the Patriots. Very impressive road win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Drake May talked about it afterwards.
First off, I want to thank the good Lord. So blessed to play this game. So blessed. Thank the good Lord. Man, that was fun. Our team's resilient. It don't matter what happens. Throw interception to put our defense in a bad spot. It don't matter. They're going to come out, get a stop. Travion takes one. Man, what about Travion, man? Just proud of our guys. People just keep stepping up. And that's this team. That's just what we're trying to build here. And just trying to enjoy this one. We got to get back a quick turnaround.
Yeah, it is a quick turnaround. They got the New York Jets on Thursday, so that's going to be a fun, matchup to see. But man, oh man, you talk about the play action game. Again, you look at Drake May's box score, it's like, it's solid a couple times. No. This guy, aside from the one red zone pick, had some misses early, that it was raining, it couldn't feel the ball necessarily. The rest of the way, settled in, was fantastic. And the Patriots run the football effectively. The defense is excellent. We know the Patriots have always had a defensive culture really throughout the 21st century. And again, Vrabel's a different type of defensive coach. Understands the clock, manipulates the clock. You remember that game? I think it was the playoff game, actually, where it was Brady's final game as a Patriot. When Tennessee, with Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, they go to Foxborough, they take on the Patriots, and Vrabel ends up burning like a minute or something of clock because of a rule that I think Belichick had actually manipulated earlier that year in a Monday night game against the Jets, where, and I think they actually got the rule changed because of this, is just taking penalties so they can keep burning 40 more seconds off the clock at a time before they finally punt. He's done an outstanding job. He really, really has. I've been a proponent of Kyle Shanahan being coach of the year because of just the cluster of injuries the Niners had, and yet they're still competitive, and Mac Jones looks like a serviceable starter. But what this guy's doing in Foxborough is off the charts. And at this point, I think it's pretty apparent, especially with the Bills losing yesterday, and we'll talk about Buffalo later, Patriots are going to win the division. They're going to win the AFC East. So, yeah. Had a little, 5-year drought, and they're right back to being contenders. The Patriots can absolutely win the Super Bowl today, and you give their front office, you give Vrabel in particular massive credit. And Drake May, I don't think Drake May is the MVP today. Somebody else, another quarterback I'll talk about later, I think is, but he's certainly in the race. There's no question about it. Okay, speaking of quarterbacks. Oh, this should be fun. My Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, boy. So we lost to the Chargers last night, 25-10. In a game where, let me back up for just a moment. Because anyone that's watched this show for any length of time knows that I am about as critical of Mike Tomlin as any Steelers fans out there. And I honestly, just reading the vibe of Steelers Nation, maybe I'm just reading my comments too much on these videos. I don't know what it is. Steelers fans think, by and large, are on the same team as I am. Like, it's been 19 years. Yeah, the no losing season streak is cute and all, but what have we gotten in the last decade? Haven't won a playoff game since Obama was president. What have we got? Behind the times, all of it. So I think Mike Tomlin should not be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers after this season. But last night was on him. Last night, and it took 10 weeks. And again, it's not always going to look like that last night necessarily. Jesse Minter's a great DC. Khalil Mack's back in the lineup. Chargers got another good pass rusher from USC who was getting to Rodgers consistently. But that's around what I thought the season would look like. And maybe it will over the second half of the year, especially given the fact the Steelers got to play the Ravens twice, the Bills, the Lions. At Cleveland, I'm telling you, that's a tougher game than Steelers fans think. We lost the Browns last year in Cleveland. Okay, that's always a weird game. Steelers, they got to play the Bengals. Steelers' schedule's tough the rest of the way. Is that quarterback that I've been told by good friends of mine. I won't name drop because I love them. But I've been told by friends of mine, people on the internet, hey, back off your Aaron Rodgers. Hey, offer the man an apology. Because he's been efficient. He's played a good game manager role. By and large, hasn't turned the football over. Been good in the red zone. And boy, that old Aaron's been a pretty darn good leader. And I've given Aaron his props for all of the above, particularly leadership qualities, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But yeah, he's been not RELAX per se, but has been good with the Pittsburgh media. You know, after the Bengals loss, he's like, let's not ride the roller coaster. It's going to be fine. We're still first in our division. He even said that after the game. We'll play some Aaron Rodgers bites momentarily, but we're going to be fine. Still first in the division, 5-4. We're up on Baltimore. But this was Aaron Rodgers last night against the LA Chargers. Put up the numbers because they are abysmal. 1 touchdown that meant nothing, and we're going to show you a second stat to illustrate that. 2 picks, the first of which was I don't know what Aaron saw. Barely completed 50% of his throws, 161 pass yards, passer rating of 50, and a QBR 0-100. Aaron Rodgers had a QBR of 4.6. In other words,
you done messed up, Aaron.
He messed up. And if you take away the last drive, because you see 1 touchdown, like, okay, yeah, that came late in the game to Roman Wilson when the game was decided. All right, it was 25-3 with 4 minutes to go. Game was over. So before that last drive, look at Aaron's numbers, because they are, you can't even comprehend how bad these are. No touchdowns. By the way, well, you know what? I'll get to the missed touchdowns in a second. No touchdowns, 2 picks, 43% completion, 96 yards, and a passer rating of 19. Before that last drive. For context, you get a passer rating of 39 for spiking the football. So Aaron was 20 points below that for 3.5 quarters. Air Mills DK Metcalf. He's got Metcalf wide open. 3 yards of separation. Throws it over his head for what would have been a walk-in touchdown. The next drive, the Steelers are, I think, just outside the 5 or their own 5-yard line. Okay, it's 3rd down. If we don't, nothing happens. Okay, we can punt the ball away, play defense, because the defense did their job. Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they were fine. Gave up 1 big play to Lat McConkey, but by and large, we're good. And Aaron Rodgers, trying to be the old Aaron Rodgers, just moving it up out of the pocket, stepping up, steps back, fumbles the ball, falls on it, safety. Next drive, Steelers get the ball back. He's got Jonnu Smith. I mean, as open as you could possibly be. I wish we had the rights to show the footage on this show. Maybe we'll on some of the social media clips, but Jonnu Smith wide open, and he has to show off his LeBron James, 25-year-old LeBron James impersonation by going up in the air to try and make a play, and he's not able to come down with it. But if Aaron just hits him right in the chest, he maybe scores. So you got 2 potential missed touchdowns, 1 guaranteed missed touchdown to Metcalf, taking a safety, and all the while, and this, folks, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this, been saying it about Aaron Rodgers for years, is that the second stuff starts going wrong, because Aaron's had bad games. He wasn't good against Seattle. He wasn't good against New England. He had a mid-game against his old team, the Packers. Every other game, he had the great game against the Jets, but come on, it's the Jets. And then every other game, he's been solid. You know, he's been a good game manager. He's played like the Jimmy Garoppolo role. The second it goes wrong, it could be Aaron's mistake. It could be somebody else's mistake. Rolling the eyes. Oh, boy. Yelling at teammates. Isolating himself on the bench. Like, what do you see from the great leaders in this league? A Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, a Dak Prescott, a Drake May. Some of the great leaders in this league. What do you see from them? Tom Brady was the best at this. If things aren't going wrong, hey, let's go, guys. You know, fist pumping, guys. Hey, we're one drive. We're going to get back in this game. Let's back our defense up. We're good. O-line, you're doing great. Aaron goes by himself, sits on the bench, doesn't talk to a soul. Sits there and takes a nice long watch of the Jumbotron, just like the rest of us watching television, or the fans watching at the game. And what I think is going to be really interesting, next week the Steelers play the Bengals, who, of course, they've already lost to this year. That's what kind of got this train coming off the tracks. 3 out of 4 games the Steelers have lost. Chances are Aaron's going to play quite well, because the Bengals defense is horrendously bad. If they were to lose that game, and maybe a receiver makes a mistake, maybe Calvin Austin, who's made his fair share of errors this season, maybe he screws up and ball tips off his hands and gets intercepted by a Bengal. Oh, I want to see Aaron Rodgers after the game. Because even after the game last night, we'll play some clips. Again, I wish we had the rights to show the video footage other than just the audio footage, because some of the facial expressions, it's like, oh boy, here goes old Aaron again. Aaron Rodgers, after the game against the Chargers, took some accountability, but threw little shots in there and then was testy with the reporter like he tends to be. Take a listen.
This stuff wasn't working. We were bad on third down. I was just a little bit off. I missed DK early. Could have been a big play, a little high to Jono. But yeah, we didn't run the ball super effectively in the first half. I missed, obviously, some throws for sure. And then, we weren't getting guys open and just put it all together, Times that guys were open, I missed some throws I usually make. We didn't run the ball as well as we usually do, and then we didn't get open, and I didn't play as well as I usually do.
As the game unfolded, did you feel like you guys were making some changes schematically or doing some different things to try to support themselves offensively?
Schematically? We're always making changes schematically, yes.
That's why I wish we could have shown you the video footage, because the reporter asks, reasonable question, I think, given the fact that the Steelers have not exactly been an offensively, sensible team for the last decade. And he asked Aaron, have you guys made schematic adjustments? And Aaron goes, schematic, and kind of like grins himself. And like, laughs like, oh, this clown, who is he? Yeah, we're making change schematically. It's like, okay, he's already getting tested with the Pittsburgh media. He's already, thrown off on teammates, rolling the eyes. I mean, my sister, as I've said many times on the show, is a diehard Packers fan. And her and I, back when Aaron was a Packer, used to just get an absolute kick out of somebody screws up, Aaron Rodgers turns into Michael Scott at The Office. Like an NBC, kudos to the NBC camera people for getting a shot of Aaron. Is hands on the hips, looks toward the sideline, looks at the player. Now let me do the illustration. And then looks at the camera. What are you going to do, man? Just gives that look to the camera like, I did my part. What do you want me to do, guys? So as this season begins to shift south, how I thought it was going to throughout the season, which is, hey, defense the highest paid in the league. TJ Watt's making plays. Defense did their job last night. They did. TJ Watt made Justin Herbert's life uncomfortable. So did Keanu Benton and Alex Highsmith. Cam Hayward does what Cam Hayward always does. Bat balls down at the line of scrimmage. Chargers had a makeshift offensive line, and it showed. The Steelers exploited that matchup. DK Metcalf separated. Jonnu Smith separated. Jalen Warren gave you some explosive plays in the run game. The incredible hurdle. Yes, the Steelers O-line is bad. Aaron, you knew that going in, just like you knew the Jets O-line was bad. And you're trying to move out and make plays. Buddy, you can't. It's not, part of it's not fair, I get it, but you can't. And this is a guy, this is why I love the QBR stat. Because what QBR basically does, QBR does not come out until hours after the game's over. Because you get football film watchers, experts watch the game. Okay, they take into context. Should that have been picked? Should that have not been picked? All these things they take into account. Your legs, offensive line, how many times you're sacked. It takes everything into account and puts it into context in one number, 0 to 100. Aaron Rodgers got a QBR 4 last night, which bumps his QBR down, folks. You ready for this? Aaron Rodgers this year, QBR 44.9. That is 25th in the National Football League. So you saw it. Yeah, the O-line's not good. Yeah, the receivers, they're outside of DK Metcalf and really Jonnu Smith and Freiermuth, almost like the wide receiver 1 and 2, 2 and 3 rather. The second it starts to go wrong. Rolling the eyes, isolating from teammates. The things I've gotten on this man for years. You're finally getting to see it. And yeah, now Mike Tomlin is getting defensive after games.
How would you assess Aaron's performance tonight?
How would you?
Next.
Okay. Mike, it's your idea to sign him. Okay? It's your idea. Mason Rudolph could have been that bad, right? Skylar Thompson, Will Howard, could have QBR better than 4. So, but hey, listen, they might get 9 wins. They if they just win 4 more games, non-losing season, and then pack up, successful year in Pittsburgh, right? Defense did their job. I've got on Mike Tomlin, Terrell Austin. The fact of the matter is, when you had the injuries to Darius Slay and to Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey has to go from safety back to corner where he got cooked beforehand. Defense was fine. got consistent pressure on Justin Herbert. And the quarterback who has, I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, has not been a good player in 4 years, has not won a playoff game in 5 years, has had since December 2021. Think about this. You know how long that was? That was almost 4 years ago. December 2021. From that point to now, how many 300-yard passing games does one Aaron Rodgers have? 1. None for the last 4 or 5 games of 2021. None all of 2022. 23 had the Achilles. 1 last year. None this year. He's washed. He can't move. Not accurate down the field. Throwing teammates under the bus. Getting testy with the media. Trust me, folks, as this season goes south, because it's going to, the Ravens are going to win the AFC North. That's a foregone conclusion. As long as Lamar Jackson, doesn't get hurt, they're going to win the division. No question about it. They're way better than the Steelers. With this thing going south, you haven't seen the first bit of Aaron Rodgers. Getting testy with the media, passive-aggressive, not talking to teammates. We're at the beginning stage of this, folks. It took 10 weeks, but finally, we are seeing the real Aaron Rodgers. When you learn this about quarterbacks, about football players, athletes, heck, people. What are they when the fit hits the shan? When stuff goes wrong? When they're facing circumstances that they had nothing to do with? Or maybe they did have something to do with it. How do they respond? True measure of a person, what do they do in adversity? And Aaron Rodgers, like clockwork, on the bench by himself, rolling his eyes, exhaling, not talking to teammates. When he is talking to teammates, he's usually cussing them out. It's never his fault. That's the Aaron Rodgers I know. Got some comments. Diego Mazulos via Twitch. This is our first Twitch comment, I think. So congratulations, Diego. He says, hi. Well, hello, Diego. Patrick Brown. As Simon and Garfunkel says, hello, darkness, my old friend. Yeah, we're back. That's probably, I have to imagine, Patrick, that is a reference to the darkness retreats that Aaron has gone on throughout his life. It's, I expected this. I'm watching it last night, and listen, I can be guilty of this. We all can. It's why conservatives watch Fox, liberals watch MSNBC. We go to news channels to get confirmation bias. And watching that game last night, yeah, defense doing what it should do because the highest paid in the league. We got an awesome defensive line. And O-line can't protect. And receivers, receivers did separate pretty consistently. Calvin Austin separated, but he dropped a pass that led to Aaron's second pick. DK Metcalf's going to have a walk-in touchdown. Jonnu Smith, maybe not, he won't score, but he'll certainly get the ball deep into the red zone, in which Darnell Washington's a weapon. Jalen Warren, you got a lot to work with. Arthur Smith has a lot to work with. As more DCs get film on him, it's cooked. And by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, Aaron's going to look great next week. Because the Steelers are playing the Bengals at home. He's going to look great. Everybody looks great against the Bengals. From there, Bears defense isn't that good, so we'll see. Bills defense isn't that good, but they've had their moments. Ravens might be back. They got to play the Browns defense this year. It's only going to go south from here. Last week against the Colts was a good win. Held up the Ravens momentarily. But I hate to tell you, fellow Steeler fans, it's going to get a lot worse, especially with this quarterback, who's the worst leader in sports. All right, when we come back, by the week, I'm becoming more and more impressed by Caleb Williams. Again, the stat sheet, the box score isn't necessarily going to wow you, but what he did yesterday against the New York Giants, we'll talk about Brian Dable, obviously, but what he did yesterday against the New York Giants, highly impressive, and I'll explain exactly why in just 1 minute here on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Chime in the comment section, like, share, subscribe, hit all the, hit the notification bell, get notified every time we go live, put YouTube videos up on the channel. Really, really appreciate it. We'll be back in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody tuning in on this Monday, just after a great football week. And before I continue, I do want to say this because it's very important. Obviously, tomorrow is Veterans Day, so we just want to give a big-time salute, big-time shout-out to all the incredible men and women who have served this country. We are forever indebted to your service, to your sacrifice for this country. Listen, we hear the cliche that freedom isn't free, but it's true. I mean, some cliches, they may sound cheesy and corny, but they're true. Like the fact of the matter is these men and women have given everything. Their families have sacrificed for this country. So God bless each and every one of y'all. And a very happy Veterans Day to everyone out there who is serving or has served this country as we celebrate Veterans Day tomorrow. Okay, let's shift to the Chicago Bears. Because, I mean, coming into the season, it was funny. This feels like it's 3 months ago. It feels like 6 months ago. Remember the video of Caleb Williams throwing the ball into the net, and he like misses the little pocket that the quarterbacks do this drill in training camp all the time, where you throw the ball into a little pocket, and Caleb's not only missing the pocket, he's missing the whole net in some cases. And at one point, he's just like, gosh darn it, like a pumping of his fist, like crap. Ben Johnson goes to the media. He's like, I wish we were further along than where we're at now. He's even talking about Tyson Bagent, who's the backup to Caleb Williams, like he's running the offense and all these things. And when everyone was like, oh, it's an indictment on Caleb, Caleb's not going to work. I said this back in August. You can go back and check the tape. I said it in August. It's going to be a learning curve, a learning process for Caleb, who's never worked with a coach like Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson, who's never worked with a quarterback like Caleb. And I said, almost verbatim, late October, early November, Halloween, first week or two of November, it's going to start to click. Caleb had a much better stat line last week against the Cincinnati Bengals than he had yesterday against the New York Giants. I thought he was twice as good yesterday as he was against Cincinnati. He was good. The throw to Colston Loveland to win the game, yes, it was horrible tackling by the Bengals, but the fact that Caleb was able to fit the ball in there, some of those throws, listen, Caleb's got to work on his deep ball. I've said that for a while. Like the deep ball is not quite there. He throws it on a rope more than on an arc. Like Stafford's great at that. Herbert, Mahomes, like those guys, Dak even to a certain degree, like throwing the ball on an arc, Caleb's got to work on that. But these over-the-middle crossing patterns, I mean, he almost throws it too hard, throws a missile to these guys. I mean, Josh Allen, it makes Josh Allen be like, man, I maybe need to put more steam on my throws over the middle. It's unbelievable. But one of the big knocks on Caleb Williams, I remember talking about this on my show, coming out of college. Oh, man, he's not tough enough. Remember when he cried with his mom in the stands after that loss to Washington? Oh, he paints his nails. He's not tough. That's funny. Because I saw yesterday, and to be clear, the Bears O-line's been great this year. My man Darnell Wright out of Tennessee's doing his thing. I'll shout out to him. Ball for life. But yesterday, playing a great Giants D-line, they got worked in pass protection. Oh, and by the way, they were playing in Chicago, Illinois, which was certainly yesterday, wet, snowy, windy, cold, gross, miserable. You're down 10 in the fourth quarter. Yes, Jackson Dart went out, and we'll talk about the Giants later. I get that. But what did Caleb do? Because Caleb wasn't facing Jackson Dart. He was facing the New York Giants defense and pass rush in particular. Deep breath. Oh, by the way, you know what else wasn't counting Caleb's way? Receivers couldn't catch cold. It's funny. It was freezing cold out there in Chicago, especially Olamide Zaccheaus couldn't catch anything. I think it was like 6 to 8 drops, something along those lines for the Bears yesterday. Couldn't catch anything. Caleb kept his calm, kept his composure. Hey, we're good. We've won a lot of games like this year. We're going to play a bite from Caleb later talking about that. Makes every single throw he needs to. The throw to Colston Loveland, I think this is on, I forget if it was the drive that made it 2017 or the drive that put them up 24-20. I forget which. But over the middle, for him to make that pass, Tom Brady talks about this all the time. Like, you can't hit receivers the way you used to, so quarterbacks kind of get away with throwing quote-unquote hospital balls. Caleb did that, where it's Colston Loveland makes a great catch, where he has to kind of reach this way to go get it. But to put the ball in a spot where he's not going to get clobbered by a Giants DB, it's like, oh, he's seeing it. Seeing the field was something Caleb kind of struggled with a little bit this season. By the way, you know what something else Caleb struggled with early this year? Pre-snap motion, or pre-snap penalties, guys being in motion and not getting to the line in time. 3 penalties yesterday. So they fixed that. And in the clutch, in the fourth quarter, with his arm, with his legs, he had the 29-yard scamper to get them to score in position before he throws the touchdown to Roman Dunze to make a 3-point game. Then he runs it in down the sideline, showing the explosiveness from 17 yards out, making plays, making throws in the pocket, making a lot of plays outside the pocket, which is what he was famous for at USC. And Caleb Williams this year showed the stat, has showed the clutch factor in the fourth quarter. He's got 5 total touchdowns to 1 pick. The completion percentage has to get better, no question. 58%, that's got to get better in a league where 65% is kind of the bare minimum, expectancy. 670 total yards. He has a pass rating of 100. He has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 game-winning drives, which leads the NFL this season, and the one yesterday was the most impressive. His first one was against the Raiders. That was great. The 4th down touchdown, I think it was either DJ Moore or Roman Dunze against Vegas, blocked the kick. They win that game. The second one against Washington was more DeAndre Swift than Caleb Williams, but still, he did what he had to do. Third game was against the Cincinnati Bengals last week, but some of it's like, Bengals defense is bad. Caleb did make the throw to Colston Loveland yesterday. Down double digits, wet, snowy, cold, windy, gross, disgusting, terrible. Down 10, Giants pass rush is coming after you and hitting you every single play, and you don't miss a beat. That is a franchise quarterback. That is what the Chicago Bears have been starving for their whole history. I mean, the Bears have had great history going back to the late, great George Halas and all the way to the Chicago Bears defense in 1985 that a lot of people think is the greatest ever, and Mike Ditka and Singletary and Sweetness and even Urlacher in the modern day. Like, it's all been defense. They cannot find the quarterback. Never had a guy go for 4,000 passing. Never had a guy throw for 30 touchdowns or more in a season. They've got their guy. I think Caleb's going to be a star to superstar player. He's not there yet. Accuracy's got to get better. Consistency's got to get better. But the pre-snap penalties, that's gone. Can he play behind a bad O-line? Well, I saw him have his moments get under a terrible O-line last year. This year with a great O-line that had a bad day against a great D-line, he was sensational. Utterly sensational. And we'll talk about Dable in a second. That was outstanding. Kudos to Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams actually talked after the game about the Bears winning all these close games this season.
I think it's what Coach built for us. I think it's that full 60-minute football that we talk about to ourselves in that locker room. I think it's just us and our determination that we won't go out without a fight. And if we go out and we're not on the right side that we want to be on, we win out fighting. Recently it's been that we've come out on top, but we got to find ways to put points up early, fast. Defense has to stop them, special teams have to do their job, and we got to keep going and putting up a lot of points. That's what we can do. It's awesome having these games, but we got to find ways to win the game a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and that's a leader of a team holding his guys to a high standard, but it's always a team. Like, that's something, I said this back when Caleb was, and by the way, I know a legitimate criticism of Caleb's temperament, so to speak, the slumping on the bench, at times the tantrums, completely fair criticisms. But as I said when he was coming out of USC, the nails, I could care less about the nails, honest to God. Can you play or can you not? I don't care about the nails. But the whole thing with the mom in the stands. Give me that guy who maybe at times is a little too over-emotional, over a guy the Bears had about 15 years ago. Remember Jay Cutler? Wouldn't come back in an NFC Championship game because, Super Bowl, no Super Bowl. What's the difference, Always kind of slumped. Body language was bad. Like, he was like Aaron Rodgers on steroids in terms of leadership. Teammates couldn't stand him in Chicago. I've always said, I've used the example. When Kawhi Leonard beat the Philadelphia 76ers in that Game 7 with the buzzer beater bounce off the rim a million times, Joel Embiid is sobbing going to the locker room. Ben Simmons, stone-faced. And I wish I had a podcast at the time. I started, 6 months later. But I remember saying, that's who the Sixers are going to build their franchise around. The guy who is crushed over the guy. Take it or leave it, Maybe Ben Simmons was crushed. He certainly didn't show it. And there's something to being stoic. I get that. But in a city like Chicago, where the fans are as passionate as they are, where the fans are just starved for some competent football, certainly competence at quarterback, to show them you care, they've got their guy, without question. Clutch gene, accuracy's got to improve. It does. The mobility, the arm strength is off the bleeping charts with this kid. If you had a redraft of 2024, Drake May's going number 1, and I'm sorry, Caleb's going number 2. Jaden can't stay healthy. Penix is inconsistent. McCarthy's just not good. And Bo Nix has been bad this season and is more reliant on the guys around him than everybody in the draft aside from J.J. McCarthy. Big-time performance from Caleb Williams yesterday. Very, very impressed. With Brian Dable, though, So that's the bad news. That's the good news from the game. The bad news is Brian Daboll just got fired today by the New York Giants. We can show you Brian Daboll's resume with the Giants. Go and put that up on the screen right there. It's not very good. Obviously, the 9-7 in 1 year in 2022 helped them get to the playoffs and win a playoff game in Minnesota. But since then, 6-11 in 23, 3-14 last year, 2-8 start this year. And the Giants, over the course of his tenure at the Giants, he has 20 games under 500, double the losses that he has the wins. For years, I have been a pro Brian Daboll guy. I have. I thought what he did in 2022, taking over a Giants franchise that was dead in the water, irrelevant, no one cared, taking them to the playoff, to the playoffs, winning a playoff game in Minnesota, getting Daniel Jones to fool people thinking at the time, at least I thought, that Daniel Jones was good. He gets a big contract, and then Daniel Jones comes back down to earth. And then the losing season the last 3 years. But the feather in Brian Daboll's cap, 2 feathers, I should say. Brian Daboll fixed Josh Allen, or at least helped Josh Allen develop into the elite quarterback we know him as today. While that is not entirely false, Josh since then, I mean, you've seen with Joe Brady, won MVP with Joe Brady. Outside of this year, which we'll talk about Josh the Bills later, but by and large, just cut out the mistakes that he had with Daboll and even before Daboll. And the second biggest feather in the cap of Brian Daboll, the one that people like me have always come to his defense on, I mean, what are you going to do? He had Daniel Jones. He got to the playoffs with the guy. Like, that's impressive. Fool the Giants management into thinking he was good. Well, then we see Daniel Jones with the Colts, which uneven game yesterday and a bad game last week, much better than we're used to seeing Daniel Jones. I mean, against bad teams or mediocre to bad teams, Daniel Jones is a passer rating of like 110, 120. Against the good teams, 88 to 90, still not bad. Not great, but not bad. He's been at least competent on his worst days and excellent on his best days. Mobile, pushing down the field, Alec Pierce, like all those things. The 4th down conversion, to Tyler Warren to keep the game going yesterday morning. So that's gone now too. And the intangible, see, Brian Daboll's, I think, a really smart play caller. I think he's a really smart offensive coach, which is why a lot of people are coming to his defense like, he's not the problem. 2 things. 2 things that separate a head coach from a coordinator, of which Brian Daboll, I think, is a great OC. If he gets a job to be an OC next year, then they just got themselves a good one because he's a great coordinator. 2 qualities. Number 1, his teams are completely undisciplined. Completely undisciplined. Number 1, they're 3rd in penalties this year. Number 2, blown double-digit leads within a month in the 4th quarter. I think I saw a stat like they're the 2nd team ever or something to have like 2 blown double-digit leads within a month span in the 4th quarter, like ever. Like, can't hold a lead in the 4th, and the 3rd most penalized team in the league. I remember a game earlier this year, this was back in week 2 against Dallas. They had like 5 or 6 penalties on a drive. Bears had 3 all of yesterday against the Giants. Like, that's not good. And the second thing, temperament. As a quarterback and a coach, boy, that's everything. Is that when Jackson Dart, who plays reckless, he does. You saw it yesterday. It wasn't necessarily a reckless play. He just landed wrong, got concussed for like the 4th time this season, which is concerning for the young man. But Jackson Dart gets, hit in the head, lowers his shoulder into a Philadelphia Eagle a few weeks ago, goes to the medical tent. And Brian Daboll got in trouble for this, rightfully so, is out here just screaming. I mean, he like goes into the medical tent. Like, man, doctors, hurry up, get him out there. I can't stand to see Russell Wilson out there. That shows a level of, because Daboll knew the writing on the wall. He knew his seat was hot. That shows to me a lack of good temperament, a lack of self-awareness, because, bro, you're the head coach. The camera's on you at all times. Yelling at the doctors, like, bro, that is completely against NFL protocol. Like, once a guy goes to the medical tent, it's him and the doctors. That's it. No one can go in there. And for him to like almost like rip the thing open, like, get out of here, da-da-da. Lack of temperament and undisciplined. And by the way, Daniel Jones, who had a good year in 2022, he did. And Daboll deserves credit for a lot of that. But he's now balling in Indianapolis even more than he was with the Giants. So the only thing that shocked me about the firing is that Joe Schoen didn't go right with him. How Joe Schoen is keeping his job. He must have a great relationship with the Maras or the Tisch family, whoever. Like, what? Okay, he gave Daniel Jones that big contract. That didn't work. So I think there might still be eating the dead money from his deal. They moved Saquon Barkley, Okay, the draft picks have been hit or miss, some of these late round picks. He's going to get to pick another head coach? How does that happen? And by the way, it's a good job, Dart and Scadaboo and Malik Neighbors and that good O-line or good left tackle, at least, and Andrew Thomas, a great defensive line. Like, it's an appealing job. The only downside is you're in the same division as Philadelphia, but hey, Dallas isn't exactly well known for being good, and Washington, we'll see. I'm shocked Joe Shane's keeping his job. As for Dable, the writing's on the wall, bro. You lost double the games that you won. You're out here ripping medical tents, screaming at the doctors. Your team can't hold a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter twice in the last month. You're third worst in penalties this year. I mean, put up the record again. I mean, the record is what it is. It's a win or loss league when it comes to head coaches. Brian Dable's lost a lot. I mean, when you're 11-33 in your last 3 years, like, you're not going to keep your job very long. And I think Dable's a smart coach. I do. If whoever hires him to be their new OC, kudos. So, but the decision did not shock me in the slightest. So, we'll see the Giants. I think, is it Kafka who's going to take the job as the interim head coach? We'll see. It's not between that and Tennessee. I think the Giants are a far more appealing job because they've got far more talent. And for the flaws of the Mara family and the ownership at times, it's still New York. I've been in Nashville, love Nashville. Great city. But New York's different, man. Now, maybe it's more expectations. Maybe it's a drawback in that regard, but I'm not shocked that Dable's let go of Brian Dable. Okay, let's talk about another New York team. Actually, a New York team that used to employ Brian Dable, the Buffalo Bills. Maybe Buffalo will get Brian Dable to be their new OC in the future because Buffalo's got a Sean McDermott problem. And I don't want to say that in the sense of, Josh Allen devoid of blame, because the thing that bothers me about the Josh Allen coverage, it's not people saying, he's amazing. Duh, he's awesome. I think he's indisputably one of the two best quarterbacks in football at number 2 behind Mahomes. But, I mean, folks out there, he's the best that's ever played the position. We've never seen someone manipulate defenses the way Josh Allen does, and we've just never seen a talent like him. By the way, all of which is true, but then when he plays bad, receivers suck, defense sucks, coach suck, and he played bad, and he had 2 awful turnovers in that game yesterday against Miami. And he was the catalyst of an offense that scored 13 points against the Dolphins defense. Let's put some blame on Josh Allen. If he is the Manning to Mahomes' Brady, we'd begin on Peyton if Peyton had a game like yesterday. Which, of course, as I've said many times on the show for years, Mahomes and Allen is not Brady Manning. It's more like Brady and Rivers. It's not Allen's better than Rivers, but when did Rivers ever get Brady in the playoffs? So Josh isn't devoid of blame. Josh is a bad games against the Falcons, against, yesterday against the Dolphins. And maybe some of this is a Super Bowl hangover. Because we all know the Buffalo Bills, that is their Super Bowl. For whatever reason, they get up every year. That Kansas City game in October, November, man, they are ready to go. They're chomping at the bit to get at the Chiefs to show we are on your level. And of course, then they get, they lose in the playoffs because they can't get a stop and Mahomes owns them. But Josh Allen can't score down 3 with 3 minutes to go or more in the fourth quarter to tie or win the game is over 2 in those spots. But regardless, defensive line got after Mahomes. Couldn't do it against Tua. Last to check, Mahomes was quite a bit more mobile than Tua, and the Chiefs' O-line, with their injuries, is quite a bit better than Miami's. All of those things are fair critiques of the players. But with the Patriots playing the way they're playing, with the fact that New England now at this point has, without a question, the best coach in the division, the second best quarterback in the division, and that gap is closing between Drake May, Josh Allen. We got to see more. Drake May's still young. We got to see more from him. Josh Allen's an MVP, but it's not a huge gap. I think that will speed up the process of the Buffalo Bills moving on from Sean McDermott. And I've always said this about Sean McDermott. He's not a bad coach by any stretch of the imagination. He's not, he's not Brian Callahan. He's a good coach. He's the Mark Jackson of the NFL. Mark Jackson coached my Golden State Warriors 2011, 2014. I will sing Mark Jackson's praises till I'm blue in the face. The fact that man ain't got a head coaching job since the Warriors moved off him in 2014 is a crime that should be investigated. And by the way, if he's not coaching games, he should be calling games. Mama, there go that man. Hits different. Get Mark Jackson back on the air, okay? Mark Jackson took over a dysfunctional franchise in Golden State. Like, they had some players, okay, they had the skinny guard, Steph Curry, and they drafted Klay Thompson, who's kind of a spot-up shooter, and they got some pieces here or there, and eventually a year after Mark Jackson gets there, they draft this kind of do-it-all guy in the second round, Draymond Green, and they got some nice players, Harrison Barnes, Festus Ezeli, Andrew Bogut. And Mark Jackson builds a culture, builds a confidence. You ask Steph Curry or Draymond Green right now about Mark Jackson, the first thing they'll say, oh, he instilled confidence in our group. I mean, Mark Jackson famous. Remember he went to the media? Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, greatest shooting backcourt of all time. Well, Kenny Smith once said, Kenny the Jet Smith, who's good friends with Mark Jackson from New York, he said that Mark Jackson once called him and said, I'm going to the White House someday. He's like, oh, what, the president invite you? Like, no, when we win the championship with these guys, I'm going to the White House. That never materialized with Mark, but he saw it before everyone else did. He built the confidence in that group. He set a culture. But some of the limitations of Mark Jackson's offensive philosophy, a little too much pick and roll, putting too much of the offensive strain on Steph, who hadn't quite put on, the muscle that we see with Steph today, on yet. It minimized Klay Thompson. Draymond Green wasn't that big of a part of the rotation, at least in the starting lineup. That and some issues in the front office, Mark Jackson gets, moved on from. Steve Kerr comes in. Rest is history. Warriors go from an iso ball, pick and roll offense to a move the basketball type of offense, 5 out, small ball. Steve Kerr and the Warriors kind of revolutionized that. And Steve Kerr is going to go down in history as certainly one of the 10 greatest coaches in the history of the NBA. That's where the Bills are at. Sean McDermott took over in Buffalo in 2017. At that point, they had not been to the playoffs in the 21st century. Their last playoff game, 1999, Music City Miracle loss to the Tennessee Titans. Hadn't gone since. Takes over, Tyrod Taylor. Remember the Nathan Peterman 5-pick game? It was a disaster. But, they're getting these scrappy, close, down-to-the-wire wins. Go to the playoffs. A year after that, they draft Josh Allen. A few years after that, they're contenders. So Sean McDermott can come into a dysfunctional franchise and clean it up and build a culture. Like, he'd be great for the Tennessee Titans. Like, not the long-term option, but could come in, hire a good staff, and turn Tennessee from a joke to, Tennessee's a pretty well-run operation here. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they win a playoff game. Sean McDermott's not going to get you to the next level. We see it year in and year out. He's a defensive coach, and with the exception of 2022 against Cincinnati when the offense was bad, 2020 on, it's been the defense that's let them down. Now, Josh has come up small in back-to-back games against Kansas City, down 3 in the fourth quarter, the ball in his hands, come up empty twice. But before that, Sean McDermott's defense has let the Buffalo Bills down, and he's a defensive coach. He is the Mark Jackson of the NFL. Smart, can build a culture, good motivator, not going to get you to a championship level. So you bring in a Steve Kerr. But Steve Kerr had never coached before, obviously, but Steve Kerr comes in, revolutionizes the Warriors offense, and Steph Curry is a 2-time MVP his first 2 years with Steve Kerr. Klay Thompson goes from a good spot-up shooter to an all-star and an excellent defender in his prime. And Draymond Green, well, we all know what happened with him with Steve Kerr. Small ball, all of it. Kevin Durant didn't want to go to the Warriors just because, they're great, and he hates Westbrook. No. OKC was on par with Golden State in terms of talent. It was how they played. KD himself said that. It was how they played. Everybody gets to touch the ball. It's sharing the basketball. Whoever is getting the shot, whoever's the hottest man. If I'm hot, I get the shot. Steph's hot. Klay's hot. Some off the bench. Livingston, Iguodala, doesn't matter. Kerr changed everything. A new head coach. You're telling me, if they move on from Sean McDermott, you're telling me Buffalo is not by a mile the best job in the market. You get to coach Josh Allen. And by the way, I think Joe Brady should get some looks to potentially be the new head coach. Because Joe Brady's going to get calls from college football, from the NFL. He's been successful in both. Helped Josh Allen win a league MVP. Josh Allen's not a perfect player. Josh Allen was horrible yesterday. Horrible. And the fact the media isn't covering it as such is like, but if Mahomes had that type of game, they'd be ripping him to shreds. But I digress. It's kind of like what I talked about last week when Mahomes flops, then he's soft and he's not cut out for this, and he'd have shriveled up in the NFL 15, 20 years ago. But when Josh Allen flops, no big deal. Not that we don't have a literal highlight film or low light film of Josh Allen flopping, but yeah, the weak link of this team is Sean McDermott. There's no question about it. Here's who's not a weak link. Last segment, then we'll go to break. Matthew freaking Stafford. There's some real legitimate MVP candidates this season. Drake May, Jonathan Taylor, I think Sam Darnold. You see the Seahawks yesterday? Darnold wasn't a huge part of that per se, but Darnold's been great this year. Heck, let's see what he does tonight. But you've seen Jalen Hurts, 20 total touchdowns to 2 turnovers, handling the chaos of Philadelphia. Saquon doesn't get going until their most recent game. Jalen Hurts has been great. Matt Stafford's your MVP, and there's no question about it. Can we show Matthew Stafford's numbers in his last 18 games? That doesn't even look real. 40 touchdowns, 3 picks. This includes the playoffs. Matt Stafford, 40 touchdowns, 3 picks in his last 18 games. Against the 49ers yesterday, cooked them. That's a Robert Saleh coach defense. 4 touchdowns, no picks, 280 pass yards, 66% completion, 127 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 84. And let's show Stafford's numbers over the course of the season. First in touchdowns, first in yards per game, 14th in completion, but 66 isn't bad. 4th in passer rating, 7th in QBR. He's been out of this world great. And you could say, well, it's Puka and Devontae Adams, who had a little bit of a back issue late. Hopefully that's not anything too serious. Devontae is getting up there in age, so yeah, that happens. And it's Kyron Williams in the O-line, and it's, you know, the fact that the Rams have run a lot more 13 personnel than we're used to seeing. Ferguson making plays at tight end, like all of it. The way that this guy, I talk about Jared Goff's the last of a dying breed in like a pocket-only quarterback. Matt Stafford's the last of a dying breed of can make literally every single throw from the pocket and just manipulates it. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback ever. He's also the greatest quarterback ever in the pocket. Just the shiftiness and knowing exactly where the rush was, the timing, all of it. That's what Stafford's doing right now. And Tom Brady was talking about that all throughout the game yesterday, just wowed by his ability to manipulate the pocket, get the ball to receivers consistently on time and on target. And you think about this Rams team, man. Philadelphia cruised to a Super Bowl last year. Blew the doors off Green Bay. Saquon Barkley went off. Blew the doors off Washington. Saquon Barkley went off again. Blew the doors off the back-to-back champion Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts was amazing in that game. Who's the one team that gave them trouble? In the snow, on a short week, when their home is being burnt because of the tragic fires earlier this year in Los Angeles. And they walk into Philadelphia, and folks, if Jalen Carter, and by the way, Saquon Barkley runs for 50-plus yard touchdowns. If Jalen Carter does not make a play on Matthew Stafford late, I think the Rams win that football game. Because when Stafford is Nakua down the right side, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to win this game. They're going to shock the Eagles. That team is freaking scary. McVay, his resume speaks for itself. I think he's the second best coach in football to Andy Reid. Sean McVay's awesome. Great schematically and also great in terms of motivation, culture, all of it. Stafford, and part of the MVP too, and maybe I haven't seen this being talked about much, so I will continue to repeat this over and over and over. Matthew Stafford had a back problem in the preseason. Matthew Stafford barely practiced in training camp. Matthew Stafford, we know he's got a connection with Puka Nacua, but he didn't with Devontae Adams. Well, he's got one now. He's accurate. He moves well. Stafford is not going to be one of those guys that, like we saw with Caleb Williams yesterday, where he rolls to his left or rolls to his right and just beats you down the field. That's not necessarily his game. But guy's lethal in the pocket. Lethal. The no-look passes, the arm angles, the arm strength, the velocity is still there with this guy. We're having a discussion about the 5 best quarterbacks of the league, which is a fluid list. The top 3 to me is pretty much set in stone. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar. Those are the clear 3 best. 4 and 5, a lot of guys you can mention. No question Stafford's in that mix. No question. So I think the Rams are terrifying this year. I think Matthew Stafford's your MVP. I really do. Because show his numbers again for the last 18 games, which is just a hair, one game over what a regular season is. And this includes playoffs. 40 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's a 13-to-1 TD to INT ratio. That's insane. 110 rating. Rams are 14-4 in the last 18 games. Puka's been out in some of those. Devontae Adams hasn't been there for all of those. Running game hasn't always been there. He's special. He is a special, special talent. And again, we're talking about a guy who, he was the best quarterback in high school. Out of Georgia, was the first overall pick in the 2009 draft after the Lions went winless. it makes you ask the question, and we'll talk about the Lions later in the second hour. But we look at the Lions now. Oh, man, well-run operation. Brad Holmes, the GM. Dan Campbell. Yesterday's calling plays. Dan Campbell, the motivator. That wasn't what the Lions were when Matthew Stafford was there for the first 12 years of his career. For him to, the last 5 years, be with a well-run franchise, great GM Les Snead, great coach Sean McVay, this talent, wins a Super Bowl year 1, makes the playoffs when no one thought the Rams would in year 3, come that close to getting to the conference championship game last year, gave Philadelphia a better run than anyone in the playoffs did. And now this year, I am stunned that this guy is not leading currently for MVP. Keep in mind, too, he's playing in the toughest division of the league. San Francisco 6-3, they're in third place in the NFC West. So if the Rams organization, they were in St. Louis when Stafford was drafted, but if he had been an organization like this, if Detroit was as well run now as they were in 2009, or around 2009, 10, 11, 12, when Stafford got there in the first part of his career, are we sure he wouldn't have 2 or 3 rings by now? I mean, he's 37. He's not in the athletic prime of his life. And he's having the best season of his career. 25 touchdowns, 2 picks this season. Just unbelievable stuff. And Stafford talked to Tom Brady after the game about the Los Angeles Rams rolling and how the offense is clicking.
Yeah, it's been great. We've been mixing personnels, doing a great job of that, getting in and out of 13, 11, 12, all of it. And when we can do that, I feel really comfortable. Our guys are making plays. I'm just happy to be a part of it, man. It's so much fun when you get to go out there and orchestrate drive and you're in and out of personnels, 13, 11, 12, whatever it is. So it's been a lot of fun.
He's manipulating the pocket. He's got Sean McVay calling plays. That team's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And I'm still going to hold on to the belief. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that it's not going to happen. Double negative, but you get where I'm going with this. That Aaron Donald doesn't pull an Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle, longtime safety in the league, played a little bit with the Chargers for years and with the Rams. I think it was with the Ravens too. Right before the playoffs in 2021, rejoins the Rams, plays 4 games, gets him a ring, goes right back to retirement. Could Aaron Donald, with that D-line that the Rams bring to the table? I'm just saying. Have you seen Aaron Donald on social media? He's in pretty good shape. Right? He's not that old. He's still in his 30s. He's not that old. Could he say, yeah, McVay, give me a couple of games to ramp up at the end of the regular season. I'm not going to dress. I'm not going to suit up for these games. But get warmed up in practice. Get going. I'm clearly in great shape. And wild card round or divisional round, if the Rams are to get the 1 seed, off to the races. Because they can't double or triple team me because I got these 2 monsters on the opposite side with Byron Young and Jared Verse. Whew. Team's scary. And they've got, this year, I think Stafford's been the best quarterback in football. I'm not saying in totality. I'd still take Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. But just this year, that's been the best quarterback in the league. Matt freaking Stafford. All right, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, recap for the rest of Week 10 around the National Football League. Dan Campbell's out here calling plays. All right, you're looking at the Jags. Oh boy, the Jags. Oh, boy. Brutal, blowing a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about all those things coming up in just 1 minute here on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Again, appreciate everybody stopping by on a great football Monday. And I know I literally said it after the first break, but I'll say it again. The play at the end, I know we're talking college football. The play at the end of the Indiana-Penn State game Omar Cooper Jr. By the way, it was an insane throw by Fernando Mendoza, who I think is the best quarterback in college football today. And as Gus Johnson brilliantly said it on the broadcast, in a much higher pitch than I did, I am right now. Give him the Heisman. Mendoza. Oh, I will say, Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame. He's getting an invite to New York. Jeremiah Love's going to get an invite to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. He's been awesome. He's the best running back in college football. But Mendoza, to me, is the front runner. The throw to Omar Cooper on that game when he drove against Penn State was amazing. The catch was as good as you'll ever see. And you could say maybe it's a mistake by the DB of Penn State not to force him. But to catch that ball, had the awareness. My dad called out on the spot. Had the awareness, looking down. Get that, the toenail of the toenail inbounds for the touchdown. Great call on the spot by the official. That was play of the year in college football so far. And it keeps Indiana undefeated. They're 10-0. I imagine when the playoff rankings come out tomorrow, they'll stay at that number 2 spot. I know they were close with Penn State, who's not very good, but that's still a gutsy win. One of the biggest. Could we argue? I don't know Indiana Hoosiers football that well in terms of their history. Obviously, it's not that good because they never had an 11-win season prior to Kurt Cignetti doing so last year. But is that one of the greatest plays in Indiana Hoosiers history? I don't know. Indiana fans, y'all tell me, because that was amazing. But as for the NFL, it's funny. All of the good games were in the opening window. The 1 o'clock games, they were great. Came down the wire, Bears and Giants and the Ravens and Vikings. And in the morning, you had Colts, Falcons go to OT. Afternoon was a dud. Last night was a dud. It was very weird. Usually the best games are supposed to come later in the day. Not the case yesterday. But nonetheless, in Berlin, Germany, first game ever in the history of Berlin, I believe also, too, they said in the broadcast on NFL Network, that was the stadium that Usain Bolt won the 4 gold medals and one of the most iconic performances in the history of the Olympics. That the historical component of that was really, really cool. And the fans were great. They were singing, "Take Me Home, Country Roads" by the late great John Denver. That was great. The fans in Germany, I've said many times this show, with respect to all the international fans, the Germans are my favorite. I think they also sing "Sweet Caroline" sometimes, which of course is a Sox fan, very near and dear to my heart. So that's cool. But Colts win a thriller yesterday. That was my upset of the week too. The Falcons covered, to their credit. They covered for me, but man, upset of the week was that close to hitting. 31-25 was the final. And Jonathan Taylor, can we show Jonathan Taylor's numbers? Because he was unstoppable. Show his numbers. He was unbelievable. 3 rush touchdowns, 32 carries, 244 rush yards, 7.6 yards per carry. And by the way, I saw the stat with Jonathan Taylor today. He has more rush touchdowns total than the Browns, Saints, Raiders, and Titans. He's got 17. Browns got 16. Saints and Raiders got 15. Titans got 11. Actually, that's total touchdown. That's not rush touchdown. That's total touchdown. So Jackson Smith and Jigba is probably going to end up being the runner-up for Offensive Player of the Year. Christian McCaffrey is an honorable mention. This guy's been unreal. And kudos to Daniel Jones, too, who had, I thought, a rough 3 quarters. Had a bad turnover and looked kind of overwhelmed. It's like, oh, boy. After last week against Pittsburgh, now this game against a great Falcons D-line. Is he turning back into the old Daniel Jones? Oh, no. Colts season's going to come apart. And stabilizes. I mean, he's got his lip all bloodied up, or he looks like the Joker in The Dark Knight. Fourth down, game on the line, hits Tyler Moore on the left side. Like that. That's a big boy throw. Putting it on target, on the money for his excellent young tight end. I love Tyler Warren out of Penn State last year to make the play, get the first down. Colts end up, tying the game and going to OT. And Jonathan Taylor walks it off. I'll say this. They said there was a weird thing that happened with the coin flip yesterday. I think they said in the broadcast that Atlanta won the toss and elected to receive. That's an indictment on Raheem Morris. I mean, they happened to Kyle Shanahan in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. With the new overtime rules, with Buffalo whining and groaning about how now both teams get the possession overtime, which I think is okay for the playoffs. I think it's awful for the regular season because you potentially get more ties, more bad quarterbacks. I'm completely against it. But with the rules are where they're at, you kick it away in overtime. Like, what are you doing? Like, if the Colts score, whoop-de-doo. You still get the ball with a chance to go tie the game, and your offense had just scored. Tyler Algier had made some plays. He was really effective in getting the Falcons down to take the lead with about 2 minutes to go. So that was a big, if they're correct in what they said in the broadcast, that Atlanta won the toss in overtime, elected to receive, that is a big time error on the part of Raheem Morris. So, and this Falcons team, God, they're so weird. I mean, they can beat Buffalo. They can get blown up by Carolina. They can almost beat the Colts. They can get blown up by Miami. They're a weird team. So it's probably fitting that they're 3-6. Jets yesterday with a win over the Cleveland Browns, 27-20 in a game. Shout out to my guy, Alfred Parso Jr., big Jets fan. Also, my good friends, John Rivera and Barry Grant Jr. are Jets fans as well. But Alfred was at that game yesterday, was texting me throughout. It was raining. It was great. It was raining a lot through the country. It was snowing where I'm at, or at least today it was. But he kept texting me like, gosh, like the atmosphere here is really emotional because the first Jets home game at MetLife since the tragic passing of Nick Mangold. His family was there. I saw a video with his family and Garrett Wilson. And at one point there was like this big flag of Nick Mangold that had gotten, kind of passed around the stadium. It was a very emotional atmosphere. So the fact they were able to get the win, with Justin Fields doing virtually nothing was impressive. Breece Hall did his thing. The defense was by and large solid. And again, I know Woody Owner is probably the worst owner in football. So that has to give you some trepidation just right off the bat if you're a Jets fan. If they can find a way to hit on these picks, because I thought they, more than the Contenders did, they won the deadline this past Tuesday. 5 first-round picks, and let's just talk about the upcoming 2026 draft, because the Jets aren't going to have a good record, so they're going to have a high first-round pick. Dallas isn't going to be that good, so they're going to have another high first-round pick. All right? They're going to have their pick in the second round, and Dallas's pick in the second round, which we imagine will be high. So they could get 4 of like the top, 43, 4 or 5 players in the draft. Like that is, if they can hit on these, Aaron Glenn's shown some growth. Maybe he's building a culture here. There's a kind of a belief now with the Jets. So that was a solid win. They ran the football effectively. As for the Browns, this is a classic example of, I was talking about with Caleb earlier, like the stat line does not show how well he played because he got a lot of drops happen and line was bad. The stat line is very misleading on Dillon Gabriel's performance yesterday because you're like, 17-32, couple touchdowns, 88 rating. It wasn't bad. He was bad. Dillon Gabriel, I'm not kidding, folks, was overthrowing receivers on screen passes. It was not a joke. I mean, like so high over their heads, they're not even jumping. Like it's in the first row at MetLife Stadium. I don't think they'll do it next week against Baltimore because it is Baltimore. But if this continues with Dillon Gabriel, and again, I'm sure he's a nice kid, but I did not buy him at all out of Oregon. Small, not much of an arm, doesn't move that well. Had to stay a long time in college, which has always kind of been a red flag for me because, like, if you didn't go to the NFL until you had to go to the NFL, that tells me the scouts probably didn't see much in you to begin with in the previous, 3-4 years. And if Baltimore comes into Cleveland, and it's a divisional game, so you never know. Familiarity there. Stefanski and Harbaugh know each other. But if he struggles, and you got those Browns fans who've not seen good quarterback play in a long time, Shador Sanders, or play Shador, or whatever the chant that the Browns fans will start, he'll start the following week against the Vegas Raiders. And that'll be a good spot for him. The Raiders don't have a good defense. It'll be indoors. Nothing against Raiders fans, but most of their fan base is still in Oakland and Los Angeles, not Vegas. They haven't really built a big fan base there. That could be a good opportunity to put Shador in. But I've said it all year. Flacco's going to be the starter. Then they traded him to Cincinnati. He's balling in Cincinnati. Flacco's going to be the starter. Then they go to Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel will struggle. Then they go to Shador. If Shador doesn't play well, guess what? The Browns got 2 first-round picks in a great quarterback draft. They can take a guy and either move on from Shador, or Shador is their backup, maybe like a Kirk Cousins situation. Like, you never know. Keep him on the roster. But, that was, Dillon Gabriel was bad yesterday. Trevor Lawrence was not good through big stretches of yesterday either. So the Texans win 36-29 in a game that the Jags led by 19 in the fourth quarter. The Texans scored, was it 26? Yeah, 26 points unanswered to win the game. The 6 at the end came off of a pick 6 when Trevor's trying to make a play, gets strip sacked, gets returned to the house. Kudos to Houston, kudos to Davis Mills. They're still in the playoff hunt for Jacksonville. And again, the sky's not falling. Playoffs, season ends today. First of all, they'd be pretty early because we're still in November. Number 2, they'd be in the playoffs. But I said before the year, this is a make it or break it year for one Trevor Lawrence. Weapons are good. Now, I know, again, Brian Thomas Jr. dealing with injuries. Travis Hunter's out. I get that, but they did add Jacoby Myers. They do have a sneaky, really good O-line. It's smart offensive play caller in Liam Cohen. And they run the football effectively with Travis Etienne. Like, the pieces are there. If you can't work with this group, the Jags may have to move on. And I'm not out yet. You all know I'm very loyal to my guys. The guys I dub as my guys, so to speak. Trevor's one of them. Very loyal. But not with the Jags necessarily, but with Trevor, it's getting late early. And there's a part of me that's thinking, if this continues, I may have to jump ship on Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to. I know the Texans have a great defense. Derek Stingley made an insane pick yesterday, but it's getting late early for one Trevor Lawrence. I believe in him, but not that much. It's getting late early in Jacksonville. Ravens over the Vikings, 27-19. Listen, for Baltimore, you never apologize for a win. Offense didn't move the football that effectively. Lamar was okay. Derrick Henry was fine. Got some chunk plays here and there. Mark Andrews made some plays. The story yesterday was a quarterback who gave himself an alter ego nickname 4 starts into his career. J.J. McCarthy. 9. That's what he says, alter ego, 9. He goes in a different competitive mode. Well, 9 has more picks than touchdowns this year. 9 is a guy who, again, this is not personal tag. I ain't J.J. McCarthy. I'm sure he's a good kid. Recently became a dad recently, so shout out to him and his family. But I said it before the 2024 draft, of the 6 potential first-round QBs, he was far and away the worst. Far and away. Small. Arm strength is actually better than you think, but it still doesn't blow your socks off. Accuracy, you've seen it thus far, hit or miss. I mean, completed, under 50% of his passes yesterday. In an offense that Kirk Cousins led to 13 wins, Sam Darnold led to 14 wins. Boy, are Vikings management not just kicking themselves for not bringing Sam Darnold back. As great of a coach as Kevin O'Connell is, like the Vikings management, no, he's not the problem. Justin Jefferson darn sure is the problem. That was bad. I mean, there's some 2 bad interceptions yesterday. Inaccurate. Doesn't see the field well. Kind of small. And again, in college, was very, very reliant on a running game. Was reliant on Blake Corum and a great Michigan O-line and play action and throwing 10 to 15 times a game. And a great defense to back him up. And one of the best coaches in college football, Jim Harbaugh. By the way, it's not like he doesn't have one of the best coaches in the league now. One of the best offensive coaches in Kevin O'Connell. And I don't know, the best receiver in the league with Hawkinson, with Addison, Aaron Jones. New rule, you don't get an alter ego until you throw more touchdowns and picks through your first 4 starts. That was bad by J.J. McCarthy. As for the Ravens, it's inevitable, man. They're just going to run us down for the division. There's nothing I can say. Saints over the Panthers. How about that? 17-7. Tyler Shugg wasn't bad yesterday. About 280 yards, passing over 100. Moved the Saints, down the field pretty well in the second half. Tough loss for Carolina. Could have gotten to 6-4, keep themselves in the race in a stacked NFC. So that's a tough loss for Carolina. Bryce Young wasn't very good. Again, the size limitations we know hurt him. But Tyler Shugg, listen, he's got another, 7 starts the rest of the year. We know the Saints are going to be in the market for a quarterback, presumably. But if the kid keeps playing well, keeps doing his thing, maybe the Saints are like, all right, we've got our guy. Let's build around him. I don't necessarily think so. I wasn't that high on Tyler Shugg coming out of Louisville. It was pretty good yesterday. Saints scored 17 points, but Tyler Shugg was quite good. I'll tell you, it was quite good with Seattle Seahawks. 44-22 in one of my If I Were a Betman games. Actually, was this? No, it wasn't one of my If I Were a Betman games. I was 1 for 2 on that segment this week, which is unfortunate. But the Seahawks just, straight out the gates, blow the doors off the Arizona Cardinals. They're up 35-0 at one point. At one point, DeMarcus Lawrence has not 1 but 2 defensive touchdowns this game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is just unfreaking guardable. He is, listen, I still maintain Jefferson Chase are the best 2 receivers in football. It's a battle in the NFC West between Smith-Njigba and Puka Nacua. I mean, those guys are unbelievable. This kid, the speed this guy brings to the table, the route running combination, the rapport that 10 games in, or 9 games in, I guess, he already has with Sam Darnold. I mean, my gosh, that This kid's off the charts. They run the football with Charbonnet, with Kenneth Walker. Line's good in Seattle. The defense, this kid, Nick Emmanwori, the safety who I loved out of South Carolina, talked about him before the draft, had him mocked as like a late first rounder. Seahawks ended up getting him, I believe, in the second round. He's excellent. Man, like that is, I'm going to make a prediction today that whoever wins the NFC West is going to the NFC Championship game. And they might host it. I mean, they really might. Like, as crazy as the NFC is today, Philadelphia, we'll see what they do tonight against Green Bay. NFC North feels like it's just going to beat up on each other. Packers, Bears, Vikings, and Detroit. Respect San Francisco for being where they're at in the playoff hunt despite the injuries. And obviously Arizona's not going to sniff the postseason this year. Jacoby Brissett kind of had his first coming back to earth moment. God, the Seattle team is so well balanced on both sides of the ball. They really, really are. They are a true contender. I have both Seattle and the Rams in the top 3 on Bryce's best 10. We'll see what happens with Philly tonight. If Philly were to lose, Rams and Seahawks probably 1 and 2 on Bryce's best 10 on Wednesday. And guess what? They play each other this week. Is that game in Los Angeles? Okay, that's in LA, and the Rams, no shock, are a 2.5-point favorite. That is perfect. These days, home team gets about 2.5 points. Tells you both teams are pretty much even. So that'll be a great game in Los Angeles next week at SoFi, and I cannot wait to watch it. All right, those Detroit Lions looked pretty good. Dan Campbell, how did you do, sir? Calling the plays yesterday. And in doing so, what did you do to the Washington Commanders yesterday?
Kneecap.
They did. Washington got kneecaps from start to finish. The Detroit Lions with Dan Campbell. How cool is this? Like Dan Campbell, who's like the fist puppet. Let's go. Bite kneecaps. We know Dan Campbell. And I've said for the majority of this year, like, especially with the losses of both coordinators in Detroit, Dan Campbell doesn't get enough credit for. We talk about, he builds a culture. Building a true culture sustains lack of coordinator or losses of coordinators, kind of the brain drain, so to speak, effect. Nick Saban in Alabama is the prime example of this, at least in college football. Andy Reid with the Chiefs, Belichick with the Patriots. That's what building a culture is. And Dan Campbell's done that. But yesterday, calling the plays. And again, I understand. Washington's defense is dreadfully bad. Excuse me. It's why, let me get a drink of water. Sorry. It's why I didn't buy into the Commanders. Forget before Jane got hurt and all this. I never bought them as a true contender because they couldn't get stops. Even last year to make the NFC Championship game, it was in spite of their defense. In large part, their limited secondary. But 546 total yards by the Detroit Lions. And some of that, I mean, because they're rushing the football, they have 226. Jahmyr Gibbs went for $142, went for 172 total yards. Yesterday had 3 touchdowns in the game. I think a lot of that for Dan Campbell, you see him with the glasses on the sideline with the play shoes. Like, it's kind of cool to see. Dan Campbell trying to look like, not a nerd, but like, typical OC on the sideline. Is that I think Dan Campbell is a type of dude that kind of wants to run the football more than John Morton does. I think that's the big difference between John Morton, the current OC, and Ben Johnson, who's obviously doing a great job in Chicago, is that Ben Johnson wanted to run the football first in Detroit. He's doing that right now in Chicago with DeAndre Swift and Monungai. Like, that's Ben Johnson's sensibility in terms of calling plays. John Morton, not so much. He likes to drop back and pass a bunch. You saw it last week against Detroit. Didn't work. They really never established a run. So Dan Campbell steps in. He's going to play dictator, basically. I'm the head coach. I'm going to call plays. It worked pretty well. And Detroit next week. The games, by the way, next week, guys, are off the charts. And Sunday's going to end with the game that should have been the NFC title game last year, Detroit and Philadelphia. And that game's going to be at Lincoln Financial Field. So that'll be a fun one. But that's going to be fun. Dan Campbell, second game, I guess, ever? He didn't call plays before this, did he? Dan Campbell versus Vic Fangio, the DC of the Philadelphia Eagles. That'll be fun. But very impressed by those Detroit Lions. Just keep biting kneecaps. And quickly, I'll say this. Because of Washington's season's over. I think Dan Quinn took over defensive coordinator duties today. He announced that. The Commanders are done. It's something else, man. I have been told, my whole time doing this podcast, I've been doing this show for 6 years. I've been told that people want their politics out of sports. I've gotten crap for doing political segments on this show. I did one as recently as Friday. And people, they don't want their politics in their sport. That's really interesting. because I saw the game Sunday between Washington and Detroit, and none other than President Donald John Trump was in the booth on Fox. Was in the booth talking football with Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma, who was making some weird 6-7 jokes. I don't know what he's trying to accomplish there, but regardless, and is ripping off on the previous administration, which listen, that's within his right to do. But you would think, like, at a football game, people are watching, Democrats are watching, Republicans are watching. You want to kind of keep it pretty bipartisan. Of course, Trump has no impulse control, so he can't do that. But again, I've just been told for years, keep your politics out of sports. Hey, Trump's at the game. Look at that. Fans didn't feel that way. You saw that yesterday. They were booing the crap out of him at in Washington. But I don't know. I just found it interesting that athletes need to shut up and dribble, and except if you're Nick Bosa and you have a MAGA hat after a game, and he's standing up, countercultural stance, like kudos to Nick Bosa and all this, and LeBron needs to shut up, and Steph Curry needs to shut up, but athletes can run for Congress, ESPN talent can run for Senate in the state of Alabama. So what was that about keeping politics out of sports? I must have, maybe I missed the part where they said, unless you're a conservative. I don't know. Either way, big game tonight featuring the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers from Lambeau Field. The Packers are favored. Oh, sorry, the line just flipped. Ladies and gentlemen, the line has flipped. I've got a different graphic on here. Is there like a big... Okay, so Schefter must have reported this. Okay, I don't think that would have shifted the line that much, right? Matthew Golden, according to Schefter, is inactive for this game due to a shoulder injury, but Dontavian Wicks, Savion Williams, and Zach Tom are starting. I really want to know what flipped. Sorry, I've just totally gone over here. It was 1.5 all day. How did it shift a whole 2 points in Philadelphia's direction? That's really interesting. I'm glad. I mean, at this point, I guess show my prediction, because I took Philadelphia plus 1.5, 27-24 over Green Bay. Listen, I think this could be a big Micah Parsons game. I could see Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, bringing Micah Parsons up the middle a lot, because that's Philadelphia's not necessarily weak up front, but they're weaker than they are on the edges. So I can see Micah Parsons, who has history with Philadelphia Eagles, obviously playing him twice a year back with the Cowboys in the NFC East. I can see them bringing him a lot of bull rushes up the middle, giving Jalen Hurts problems. But A.J. Brown's back in the lineup. What does that mean for the offense? Ask A.J. Brown after the game. We'll see. We may get a wild coat from him afterwards. But they've got Saquon Barkley rolling last week, or 2 weeks ago against the Giants. He's gotten a whole 15 days in between games, so his legs are fresh. He's ready to go. And again, I keep saying it. Just put up the graphic one more time. Jalen Hurts this year, put him in the MVP discussion. 20 total touchdowns, 2 picks. He's completing 70% of his throws. Pass rating of 114 and a QBR 0-100 of 67. He's been great. He had a perfect pass rating against a Brian Flores Vikings defense. He's the man. So I think close game on the road. I get Philadelphia as an underdog. I will take the Eagles 27-24 in a close game. I really want to know what flipped the line. Really want to know. Either way, that is all the time we have for today's show. I appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitch. Shout out to those that commented via Twitch. We greatly appreciate it. Follow me on all my social media platforms, Instagram, X, TikTok. Doing a lot of new content TikTok, so follow me on there. Subscribe to the Carving It Up podcast with yours truly, Bryson Carver, and subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network. Anywhere you get your podcasts, we got some great content creators, so definitely check their stuff out as well on the Grid. Very, very exciting stuff. And again, if you're on Carving It Up, hit that subscribe button right down there. Hit the notification bell. We got new content coming out every single day, so you'll not want to miss it. Notification bell notifies you every time a new video is uploaded on the channel. But like I said, take 2 seconds every day. That's it. That's all it takes. Hit the subscribe button down there, and boom, you're part of the Carving Up family. It's that simple. It's that quick. And we would greatly appreciate it. It's providing new content for you guys each and every day. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Have a great week out there. Stay safe. God bless y'all. Peace out. And I can't deal with this cold weather, by the way. Nah. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.